Welcome yogis to our Yogi Prehab. This is a little practice I've put together that is really beneficial for if you're about to start your practice, especially if you're loading on joints such as the wrists, the shoulders, but also a little bit of mobilization for the spine and into the hips, the feet, the knees and the ankles before we start. Okay, so it's really beneficial in hydrating the joints, but also realigning joints. So if there has been any sort of postural habits, you're actually resetting the joints before you start loading, and that'll make them stronger, but also more supported and shock absorbent. Okay, so we'll start off with shoulders. Bring fingertips to your shoulders, elbows together, and then taking them around in nice big circles. And just sitting however is comfortable for you, so you can have your legs out in front if you need to. And then bringing them back the other way. And then taking the arms out wide, take a nice deep breath in, reach up. And then as you breathe out, turn the palms down. Find a little bit of a hug into your armpits as you bring your fingertips towards the floor. 2 more as you inhale, reach up. And then exhale, press like you're pushing your hands against a little bit of resistance. This time as we inhale, reach up, we're going to bring the palms together and breathe out, bring the hands down to your heart center. Interlace the fingers and give your wrists a bit of rotation. And then back the other way. So it releases into the hands and the fingers. And then we'll rest the hands to the floor beside. So you go softness through the shoulders, heavy through the elbows. And then tipping the head to one side and put a little bit more pressure down through the opposite hand. So you're going to feel that shoulder blade slide down away from the ear. Just a couple of breaths as you release the weight of the ear to the shoulder and the opposite elbow towards the floor. And then bring the head back up to center, swap over to the other side. So you've got that heaviness of ear to shoulder, and then a little bit of press through that opposite hand so the opposite elbow feels nice and heavy, and just a couple of breaths there. And then bringing the head back to center. And then tucking the chin in towards the throat, but let your breastbone rise up to meet the chin. And then drawing a little smiley face across the chest from one collarbone all the way across to the other side. And then bringing the head back to center, looking back straight ahead and turning the head in one direction as far as you can. And then the other way, keeping the chin tucked, so it's as if you're gliding your chin along a coffee table, so you're not increasing the tension in the back of the neck. You've got a nice long back of neck as you turn from one direction to the other. And then coming back to center. And then we'll work a little bit more with the wrists. So if you come over onto hands and knees, you can make this gentler by sitting back onto the heels, or maybe you've got legs out in front and you've got your arms beside you. You can make it a little bit stronger by coming up a little more weight over the wrists. So palms are face up towards you, back of hands on the floor. And then we're going to bring fingertips pointing towards the knees and heel of hands to the floor. I'm just having a little slide back and forth, and try and keep the edge of the palm pressing into the floor. So you're going to get this nice stretch up through the inside of the forearm to the elbow. And then we'll come back onto the hands with palms face down. And with your fingertips and thumbs pressing into the floor, into the pads, come right up onto your finger pads. So it's like you're hiding little cupcakes underneath the hands. And then from here, we're going to bend the elbows and straighten, just getting that little bit more press into your finger pads and your thumb pads. And then we're going to let The knuckles rest on the floor, but keep the palm or the heel of the hand off the floor, and then drop the heel down and lift back up onto your knuckles and drop the heel of the hand down. And then if you're comfortable to be on all fours, on knees, bring your wrists there underneath the shoulder, but see if you can keep that lightness underneath the heel of the hand. So you've got a little bit more pressure underneath your finger pads, your thumbs, your knuckles. Bring knees underneath the hips, hip width apart. And then a little bit of cat-cow. Maybe you're sitting on your bottom, holding onto the front of the shins. You might flex and straighten the spine from there. But on all fours, you get a little bit of hyperextension as you stick the tail up, lift the face. Tuck the chin, tuck the tail. Just finding that little bit of a hug into your armpit, so you're stabilizing the shoulder girdle. Now switching on the muscles up and down the front of the belly, but up and down the spine as well. So creating balance through front and back of torso and a flexible spine. And then as you look back towards the floor in between the hands, we're going to do some shoulder blade push-ups. So from here, keeping the elbows in a little bit of a micro bend, elbow creases pointing in towards one another. And rather than letting the elbows bend, we're going to let the chest drop towards the floor. So it's like your shoulder blades have slid in towards the spine, like sliding doors, closing at the back of the heart. And then as you push into your finger pads, your thumbs, feel those sliding doors spread apart so the back of the heart broadens, but it's not so much that you're flexing up into your cat position, more so come into a neutral position. Let the chest sink towards the floor, sliding doors draw in towards the spine, and then push into the hands, finger pads, knuckles, feel those shoulder blades spread apart. And just for 5 more, getting those mid-back muscles and the chest muscles working as a team. So front and back of thoracic, supporting the shoulder girdle, thoracic girdle. The next time you bring those shoulder blades nice and broad, step the hands one whole handprint forward and back. Or forward, one handprint forward from your shoulders with the wrists. Finger pads, knuckles active. Shoulder blades are broad. And a little hug into your armpits. And then gliding forward, shoulders over wrists. Feel a little bit of core down the front body. And then push back, a little stretch to the back body as you sink the buttocks back. Gliding forward, a little half plank, a bit of core. Gliding back, stretching out the back body with the armpits, the shoulders. Just for 2 more. And the next time you come up onto all fours, we're going to step that right hand over to the left. So you can place your right foot where your right hand was. And then we'll give our hamstring a little bit of a stretch out by gliding forward and back. So as you peel back towards that left heel, flex the right toes back, and then give the left buttock a little squeeze as you sink the hips towards the floor. And you can also have 2 blocks either side of your right leg if it gives you that little bit more support to glide back and forth. If you're a little bit tight through the hips, the blocks will give you that support. Next time you glide forward and land that right foot flat on the floor, we're going to release the right arm to the outside of the foot and wiggle the right foot towards the left hand. And this is where you might want to have a block underneath that right hand, or maybe you can tuck the elbow, the knee underneath the armpit. And then just a little active pigeon as you press the outside of the knee towards the floor and start to look towards the sole of that right foot. Bring the knee back into the armpit, and then pressing it wide towards the outer edge of the mat. So you've got that little hug into your armpit so your shoulder girdle is stable, so there's no strain into the neck. And just 3 more. And then from here, bring the knee back in underneath the chest, and we'll step that right knee back and gliding back and forth. Shoulders over wrists, find your plank, a little bit of tone from ribs down the front to hips. Gliding back. And just 2 more. And the next time you come up onto all fours, step the left hand over towards the right. So you can bring that left foot where the left hand was. And then we'll glide back and give that left hamstring a stretch as you flex back on the toes. And then land the left foot and press through the hips, opening up front of right hip. Maybe bring your blocks either side of the left leg to give you a bit of support to glide back and forth. And just waking up the hamstrings, giving them a little bit more length, but also opening up front of hips, so that'll support the spine's flexion and extension. And the next time you land that left foot, we're going to release the left hand, so you can wiggle the left foot towards the right hand. Take the left hand to a block or the outside edge of the mat, and then drop that left knee wide, so you can look towards the sole of the left foot. Bring the knee back into the armpit and then press the knee wide. So a little bit of an active pigeon releasing into the hip. You got that little hug into your armpits. Shoulder blades are nice and broad. And just 3 more. And as you bring the knee back in, push into the hands and release the knee back. And there's 2 more as you reset the pelvis, the spine, gliding back and forth. And this time as you come back, we're going to tuck the toes under, give the soles of the feet a little stretch out, walking your hands back towards the knees. So try and spread out the toes, draw the heels in towards each other. And if that is really comfortable for your toes, you might even sit up a little bit higher. Bring hands to heart center. Just taking 3 deep breaths, letting the soles of the feet, the arches soften as you breathe. And then we'll release the hands to the floor. We're going to take the knees wide, the feet just a little bit wider, so you can come back to standing onto the feet. And just wiggle the heels so they're sitting underneath the hips. And with hands, maybe fingertips on the floor, maybe hands are up on a block. Just going to open up the back of the legs a little bit more by sticking the tail up towards the ceiling. Feet are nice and wide, toes turned out, and sitting back into your squat. And that might be a deep squat, or it might only be halfway. It just depends on how your knees and your ankles are feeling. Just slow your way through it with a bit of breath flow. And the next time you lengthen the tail up towards the ceiling, wiggle the feet hip width apart and have a little rest there in Uttanasana. As you dangle the head, dangle the spine. If you've got lower back issues, you've got a good bend in those knees with belly on thighs, or maybe even forearms are on the thighs, the knees, to give you support. As you're quite comfortable in lower back, you might start to open up back of knees a little more and dangle the head. Maybe even come into a ragdoll by bringing your thumbs into your elbow creases. And just a little swing with the torso like it's a pendulum. And then releasing the arms, a little bend in the knees. Maybe hands are on thighs to give your back a bit of support. Draw the sit bones together. Keep the head dangling, scoop up through the belly, and roll the spine up 1 vertebrae at a time. Bring the shoulders, the head up last. Take a couple of nice deep breaths there. And then from here, we're going to give our ankles a little bit of limbering. Back the other way. And then give your legs a little bit of a shake out. So with all those rotations and a little bit of gentle loading, warming of the muscles, your body is now ready to take on whatever it is you're bringing next. So whether that's a sun salutation, a stronger loading practice, or core flow, a run or a walk. Enjoy.